Well, I think in the short term, it's really beneficial for our group. The players themselves, 7-game series, 6-game series. We were fortunate to close out quickly against Carolina, but what we've been, pedal to the metal here, mentally and physically for a while. I do believe the short term it'll help us a lot. And then it's incumbent upon us to simulate as best we can what's going to be required going forward. We're going to tap into some outside resources that have gone through some layoffs and some situations, and just try and do the best we can to simulate.
Are there any particular ways in which you're targeting for that?
We're going to look at whether or not, from a scrimmaging standpoint, and Bruce and I have talked briefly about it, and ultimately it'll be up to him in terms of, getting a read where the players are, first of all, mentally and physically. We've given the first couple of days off. We're going to practice for a couple of days. We now know the schedule, so we can start to forecast. And a little bit is dependent upon where the players are at. We had a couple of guys, he missed the final game, so we have to give guys the appropriate time to recover. And then go to work. I think our guys know how to practice. We're a team that likes to practice, except for Kretsch, probably, who's publicly stated that he doesn't like to practice. But I think this time of the year he'll show up and practice accordingly.
Coach also said that reach out to outside. Who are those outside people right there?
Well, there's different sports. There's crossovers that we've all sort of identified that we're going to tap into, and there's a local team I think that's had time between when they're going to Super Bowl. So we are going to look at different resources that have done it and done it well.
Do you have a relationship with Belichick? Is he somebody you can reach out to and just chat?
Do I personally? No. I have a hell of a lot of respect for the man, that's for sure. But I think we're going to reach out to their group and just again tap into every different We look at everybody as assets, in that way, and hopefully they'll be able to share some information to us.
What in general is your feeling on momentum, whether or not you lose it by having a layoff, or whether or not you believe in it to a great extent? What's just your general feeling on momentum?
I'm not concerned about it. I really believe that our team has earned the right to be here. They're gonna, they're in the moment. If you really listen to our leadership group, and there's a lot of microphones in around the game now, you can understand how dialed in they are, and they recognize the finish line and they want to get there. It's a long way between there, but I think there's so many different momentums that the series is spread out in the finals. You've got days in between and 2 days for travel. So it's a game by game, shift by shift, and guys need to live in the moment. And I think we recognize that.
And you get to the final, in a sense, that's self-confirming on how you've built your team. But do 3 rounds teach you anything in terms of that, in terms of team composition, what it takes to win?
Well, obviously you're proud of the group. I think the resiliency that you recognize throughout the course of the year, I don't think it comes down to just 3 rounds. That's too small, a sample size, to evaluate your group at. The players have made adjustments, the coaches have made adjustments. We've had players come in and out of the lineup. I think we did that throughout the season and with relative consistency. I think the biggest change in terms of the context of an 82-game schedule and how we balance the goaltending is Tuukka's taken the ball and obviously played very well. And our team has benefited greatly from that. He's the first person to point out and recognize that Yarrow has been a really big factor in that. He hasn't necessarily shared the net the way he did in the regular season, but I think our whole organization recognizes that he's been a big part of our success to be here.
Now, when you started, Donnie, you preached patience, you preached like a 5-year plan kind of thing. Now that you're 4 years into it, just how would you assess the way it's all come together since you started?
I don't know if I really preached a 5-year plan in terms of, internally we have a lot of different balls in the air. Do I roll out a 5-year plan? Yeah, but we're trying to win. And, we tried to do some things, call it on the fly, deepen the prospect pool, integrate younger players, all the things we did talk about and try and plan out and implement. We had some bumps, made some mistakes and learned from them, tried to correct them, tried to move forward, tried to continue to make the promise to our leadership group that we believe we could get there again. And we've ridden them. And, we've done a pretty good job of integrating, allowing opportunity to, providing opportunity, I should say, for some younger players. And our staff deserve a lot of credit for recognizing and scouting and just working hard. It comes down to the investment, at a player level, a coaching level, and an organizational level, ownership support. It's really, the whole piece of it.
Don, do you incorporate roster flexibility, especially with the way Bruce manages his lineup in the games, whether it's Charlie, several positions, does the team have to move up? Wondering, is that just kind of status quo now for team building, where you try to do yourself and your coach has many moving pieces?
Well, I think we have to value players that can play multiple positions, and we've recognized that. It's hard to develop players in that regard. You realize you draft a player who plays generally a certain position, but I do believe you have players that have hockey sense and the ability to move around and play up and down your lineup. And I think Bruce recognizes those things very well in game as the players that are playing well and can move them around, but game to game. And he's put players in situations that they've taken advantage of. Good for him, good for them, and he's quick to point that out. Grizzy's a great example, as you say, to go up and play in a shutdown role for periods of a game in a closeout of series, and then back it off in penalty killing situations with Johnny Moore. Torrey stepping up to play 27 minutes the other night, and where he was a year ago, where he is now, playing in all situations, says a lot for Torrey's own stuff. And those are things that our coaches every day try and get our players to recognize, And I think Bruce does a really good job. Our staff does a really good job. As a group and a scouting, those are areas that we've certainly targeted players that would go in and fill specific roles. I think Nordy and Wags are real good examples of that. Sean Corrali's the example of a player that can play in different situations. Bruce has put him up in the lineup. I mean, that line played as the series went along 16, 17 minutes. Obviously we have a top line. The rest of the lines really go into situations that Bruce tries to put them in advantageously for how they play for our team.
What is the status of some of the injured guys coming over?
Yeah, we've got some time to continue to evaluate where guys will be. I don't expect Kevin had a little bit of a setback, so I don't expect him, to be ready to play. And I would be very surprised if Chris is ready to play, but we'll wait and see where that goes.
Do you hope for Chara to be ready for?
Yeah. I mean, but again, we got a lot of time to make the absolute right decision and give him the proper time to get over something that's been nagging him, and we'll cross our fingers that'll be the case, but we're confident it will be.
Don, you didn't mention Clifton when you were talking about the D there. And the reason I bring him up is that you can do all the sort of planning and projection you want. I went to the rookie game in September. I wouldn't have projected Clifton to be the guy among like Frederick and Studnicka. So some of it is kind of whimsical or I don't say magical, but you just never know.
No, there's a coming out party, I think every playoff or in every year, you have players that will surprise and rise to the occasion. And Connor, look, he's a game kid, right from day one. And the way Bruce described it, didn't know whether he was going to be a forward or a defenseman when he was playing. Johnny Boychuk was a little bit the same way. He was playing forward when we first got him. But Connor, plays to his strengths. And then he's put structure in his game. And he's bought into what we've asked him to do, and he's had success as a result. So those are good stories, really good stories, and important ones for the success of any organization.
And within that, is there a lesson? I mean, it's easy to say, so give me a dozen more like that. But I mean, is there an element that makes you aware of, or you look for in the future? Or?
I think the lessons for all players, the next player who's looking for his opportunity. You're part of an organization for a lot of reasons. You've been identified, but the work is just beginning. And really, everybody gets to the finish line. Everybody gets to the start line, and then who's willing to do the things that in the moment that team needs you to do. And some guys rise to that. Some guys will go in and accept the responsibility that's being asked of them in the moment. and they'll move forward, and some guys won't. They'll see themselves in a different way, and that's how you can carve out a career, and good for Connor, and good for us.
Tara, I mean, he's signed for the career, but this could be his, last best chance to win the cup. How have you seen him sort of take this opportunity and be motivated by it? What have you seen from him in this?
You really better ask Z that question, whether or not he sees this as his last chance. That's not how he sees his own play, and good for him, because I think it's a driving force as to why he's a player he is at 42. And you see the respect that Rod Brindamore would have for him as they were going through the line. I just believe that they're really good at being in the moment and recognizing it, and taking a group, no matter what the situation, and bringing them back, centering them. And Z's a big part of that. Obviously, Bergie's a big part of that. Kretsch's a big part of that. The guys that have been there that won, Brad, they've won, and they want to win again. And that's been our goal. You talk about the 5-year plan. The goal has been, to be in a position to try and win, and they recognize it, and hopefully they're going to seize it.
How would you describe the Z and Charlie pairing, kind of what they each bring, how they work together, maybe the influence that Z particularly has had on such a young player as one of your building blocks?
Well, I don't think it's much different than Z with Brandon his first year. I think all young players need it. They need a guy that they can look up to on a daily basis. These kids are really talented. Charlie's a very talented hockey player. He just doesn't have the experience and the breadth of knowledge that Zdeno has. He hasn't gone through it, hasn't lived it. So there's ups and downs associated with that, emotionally and physically, at a young age, to be able to handle those things. And Z's able to give that calming hand on, when you need it. And then allow him and give him the confidence to continue to play up to his capabilities and beyond maybe where he's at, and play beyond what his experience would dictate. We all recognize Charlie jumping into the scene very early when he played in Ottawa without a regular season NHL game, and the talent is there. But the institutional knowledge that Z brings to the table, and the calming influence that he has for all of our players, but certainly his partner, the amount that they play and the situations they play, he can just impart knowledge that is invaluable.
Did you feel that with Raymond?
Maybe, yeah, a lot. I far different situations. Charlie has unique capabilities offensively, and he's a gifted player. I was more apt to have the puck given to Raymond and take care of the other side of the duties. But yeah, and along the same lines, going back to the bench and situations, staying in the moment, recognizing what your responsibilities, who you're playing against, just never deviating from what you set out to do every shift. And those are unique players that have the ability to do that, not just within their own game, but also influence everybody else's game.
Don, having played the position, how much do you marvel at Z being able to play the way he's played, his longevity, his consistency for you guys?
Well, it is remarkable. Again, we've had a lot of conversations in the last few years about managing some of those situations and minutes and things. And, Z's he's stubborn, driven, for all the reasons that he's as successful as he is. You want to take away from any of those things, because that's a lot of his, the fabric of what he is as a human being on and off the ice. And, but I think he sees the bigger picture as to what we've been trying to accomplish. And we don't get to the stages where he can play, in Game 3, elevate his minutes to 27, and if we don't manage it during the course of the season. And so I think he has a better appreciation for that than when we first started out. But it's incredible that he's doing it. I know he looks at other athletes and what they're able to accomplish, and he taps into those resources as well. So he's a guy that's continued to evolve over a long period of time, and it's a testament to him, and we're thankful as an organization.
So would you, with this layoff and stuff, I assume that there's the aces, they're still around here, and maybe bring any of these guys in?
Yeah, they're all going to come up this week. We've got 10 players that have been a big part of our organization. Several of them have contributed to our success during the course of the season within our club here, certainly down in Providence. So we're going to bring them up, and we may integrate them during the week in practice in situations. That'll be Bruce's call.
Can you think back just a few weeks when you were getting Coyle and Johansson, what you thought you were getting, how you thought they'd be implemented, and how it's played out?
Well, one of the hardest things is you may think you're getting the player and you actually don't. And that's hard. You know, you envision and you talk about, was this where you'd play him? You're going through things with your coaches. They're excited about the prospect of adding a player of that ilk, and you just don't know until the deal's consummated. And then, you know, you hope and cross your fingers that you've done the right thing. Because you've done a lot of that planning, and you know, you go home at night and think, okay, if it lines up this way, are we good? And you never know. Johansson gets hurt, you know, early on, so you just have to continue to stick with the work and do the work. The devil's in the detail in that regard. Trying to do all the due diligence, you know, how he's going to fit in, whether or not, you know, the past history of Marsh and some of those things. They're all factors. But dialing down into the player is what's most important, what they're going to bring to the table. And they fit in very well with our group. I think they've balanced our lineup. Fortunate to get Marcus back healthy. They've developed some chemistry, he and Charlie. And it's certainly presented some challenges for the other teams. I think that's the case.
So going back to the game, you said something's been nagging him. So can you just describe the decision-making process to decide to sit him in that game? How much the factors of the series score, things like that?
Nope, no factors. Game to game, decided that you know, he wasn't going to be able to be at his best in Game 4. Next man up, you know, Johnny goes in. Fortunate to have the guys waiting in the wings that way and well prepared. And you know, we would have been same decision going into a Game 5. To tell you the truth, we're living in it day by day. Trying to give our team the best chance to win. And I think Bruce has picked his lineup that way. We've made all our decisions that way, and we're going to continue to operate that way.
So you don't sound very confident that 10 days would be enough for him to get over it, or, I mean.
Well, I'm not, you know, living in where Z feels. I expect he'll be fine, but I'm not going to sit up here and make a proclamation in terms of the promises. I do believe the time will be used effectively, and he'll be fine, but you know, sometimes those are out of your control.
You faced two teams that were coming off the sweep, beat the Bulls. Any lesson in that? Anything you take? Any warning? Anything in that?
I'd have to go back, you know, to look at both those games. Carolina had the lead, and we took advantage later in the game. They had the lead, so you can't consider them rusty in that regard. You know, we played really well against Columbus in the first game, so you attribute that to them being rusty. I'm not concerned about it. You know, I think our players are going to be excited to play and go out and execute, you know, accordingly. We're going to be prepared to play.
Don, to go back to those two acquisitions, would you have expected by now or in the process, one of them was going to end up on the second line, but they weren't going to be together on this third line?
Other than really believing that Coyle would go in and play third line, I don't know if we were concerned about it. You know, Bruce has had a lot of faith in Danton being able to play up and down his lineup and on both sides. We were going to see where Marcus was going to fit, whether it was going to be a great connection with Krejci or with Charlie. We always talked about working in sets of two, knowing that I don't know if anybody could pry Bergie and Marsh apart at this stage. So knowing that Jake and Kretsch had, and then we were trying to figure out whether or not you know, Pasta was going to go with Kretsch and balance those things out. We had some time up until when Marcus got hurt that sort of threw a twist into things as to whether or not that was the direction we were going to go. And I just think Bruce looked at the way he's utilizing his fourth line, so to speak, and we don't really operate in fourth lines. Works. It's worked out.
Do you think there's one area of your game that just will be hardest to keep sharp this time? I mean, for me, it might be the goaltender that he's still 10 days out. Do you have an opinion?
I'd have to go back and look, but I think Tuukka missed when he was concussed. I do believe he missed, you know, quite a bit of time, came back and played well. he's in a really good place mentally and physically in his routines. He's gone out game days. In the past, he hasn't. He's gone out for specific reasons. I think he'll continue to do the things. It's just the game, to get into the flow of the game and the speed of the game. You can't ever simulate it. So there'll be challenges, certainly. But, Tuukka's in a really good place, and I expect him to return there.
Touched on it earlier, but just how important has Yarrow been to Tuukka's success late in these playoffs?
Well, I did reference, I think, that Tuukka was one of the first to acknowledge how important Yarrow was. He even referenced in the end of the game 4, he steered a puck his way and hoped that he would come on and be able to share the moment with him specifically. That says a lot about the dynamic of those two and the respect they have for each other. We were very respectful of the position itself, knowing that we needed to find a balance. Didn't have an exact number. We had mapped out the starts during the course of the year, outside of the injuries, didn't pivot from it, didn't deviate from it. Again, a testament to both how both players were playing, coach's conviction. So it's been part of our plan, and it's worked out. And I think Tuukka's benefited from it. And hopefully our team does. We're in the Stanley Cup Finals because we've got 2 good goaltenders.
Who are the guys now who comprise the Black Aces?
We have Solaric, Bleed, Carey, Frederick, Stanika, Schwartz, Senishin, Vakanainen, Zaboro, Lozon, Kaiser, McIntyre's been here.
Which sounds like enough if you're gonna have a scrimmage. Would you add a couple guys that look like 18 against 18 here, or is that not necessary?
Add him from where at this point in time? Like, that would be
A junior.
I have not been on the ice. Butch is not, he's on the ice. Jay might be able to. He's in the best shape of anybody, but
Media corps is all.
no, I'm not inviting any of you guys. Hags maybe, because I'll go on the other team, but Fluto, you might be invited too, but anyway, at this stage, it's all hands on deck. We'll be integrating some players in, and Bruce will map out really how he wants to, whether or not he'll simulate some scrimmage stuff. We have enough players to be able to
It's
do it.
exciting for those guys?
Yeah, we've tried to make them understand that, they're not out of sight, out of mind. At any point in time, a player can find himself, in that moment, in that stage. We were going into game 5 and game 4, Z's all of a sudden not going to play. Like things change quickly, and all of our guys are here for a reason. They deserve to be here, and they're part of it.
You'd like to have a guy like Carey, that name stands out at me. I mean, he's not a young player. I mean, he's kind of like a grown-up with that group.
A grown-up? I don't think they're chaperoning, if that's the case. Again, Schwartz is a great example of player that's been around and been, the captain down there. You need all those, in the year that Trent Whitfield, was coaching down there, was part of it. So you need them, and you need guys that can stay invested and not drift mentally. You got young players like Jack Stanika down there that, is just getting here and wondering where his lot in life might be in terms of the whole grand scheme, and it just can change. And I think guys like Paul and Schwarzy and Bleeder, who's been around a long time as well, can really help in that regard.
Last one is, you got something in your head here, you took over this team 4 years ago, didn't make the playoffs, you've got the money thing you have to sort out. So to be here 4 years later, do you think there's 1 or 2 key elements that you had to achieve to get here today, out of that lot you were handed?
Kevin, you guys know me well enough. It's just been about trying to find a way to win. We knew we had a great core of guys, needed to draft, develop. Bottom line is, my dad's a math teacher. You look at the equation, it's a word problem, so you try and find the equation. I look at it and I say, we have good players who are invested. We've got good coaches that are invested. I've got a really good staff of people that I am very fortunate to work with. I got an ownership group that's incredibly invested. The guy wearing a suit generally looks better when things go right. That's honestly how it comes down to. You have to spread around the fact that everybody's pulling on the rope, not to just throw out the cliches. But we've really worked hard to try to get here and earn a chance to get back here, and we want to try and take advantage of it.